Welcome to today's meetup, ArcGIS Hub in the health industry. I'm Megan Martinez, an industry marketing specialist here at Esri in Redlands, and I will be your moderator today. So now I'll pass it over to our presenter today, Matt Thomas. He's a solution engineer on the Health and Human Services team here at Esri in Redlands. So take it away,
Great,
Matt.
thanks, Megan. Appreciate it. To start out, I just want to give a quick recap of the meetups we had this year as part of our series. This is the last one, so stay tuned for 2020 for the ones we'll have coming out. I also wanted to make mention in the GoToWebinar session, there are 3 handouts available. One of those is the slides for this meetup, so feel free to download that. And at the end of that slide, there is a resources page. And I'll show those at the end and kind of give us a little bit of an introduction, but that'll have some really helpful links for you. So feel free to download that and have those for yourself. Also available is a City Transformation Starts with the Hub e-booklet, and that's just a booklet about Hub, very general and really helpful, informative. And there's also a Hub News PDF attached. And one of the links in the resources page is a sign-up site where you can start receiving those Hub News documents regularly and become active in the community. So to start off, what we'll talk about today, we'll look at a brief overview of open data as Esri sees it within ArcGIS, and then we'll take a look at 2 similar but different products, ArcGIS Hub Basic and ArcGIS Hub Premium. And for both of those, we'll see some examples and we'll see some under the hood demonstrations of how it works and what it would take to get started. So first off, we'll start with the overview of open data in general. So this is ultimately what it's become, what ArcGIS Hub has become. Open data is just the concept of sharing data, making it openly available to people outside of our organization. So ArcGIS Hub, though, is the product that we use to do that. So it's an engagement platform. That's what it's designed to be. It's for connecting communities around common interests, around issues and initiatives, problems that need to be solved, and ways that we can move the needle in our community. So as an organization, we connect with residents in the community and then various other people of common interests. One way that we've been doing that, we've been working with a couple different hospital and health systems on their community health needs assessment that requires a lot of collaboration in terms of developing the understanding of the health needs in our community, but also in sharing communication out of the status of the community and what the plans are to improve it. So that requires a lot of collaboration and a lot of sharing and a lot of communication. And then also in public health, of course, it's all about communicating with other groups, universities, NGOs, community leaders to ensure the best possible outcomes in our community. So this is, I'll refer to this image several times throughout the presentation, but this is kind of a roadmap of where we can go within this open data territory. And it begins with one-way communication, sharing data outwards. We have data, it's useful in a lot of ways. Let's make it available to other people that have similar goals as we do, so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can continue with what we've already been doing, and vice versa. And then also, we can make that formalized and really share with citizens as well, make it more friendly in our delivery. So it's not just raw data sets, but also shaped in the context of explaining the conditions in our community or within our business. So let's see, I have an example I want to show. Oh, I did forget to mention, sorry, backing up. If you go to the Esri Health website, there is a webinars link, and this will have a place to sign up for all future webinars, as well as recordings of all past meetups. So this meetup will be recorded and posted here. But sorry, back to open data. The city of Brampton, Ontario, Canada has a great example of an open data site. And this is open data at its simplest. We have data sets categorized in different topics. If I look at this health and safety one, I can see a collection of raw data sets that are available. I have a description of it, some metadata about it, and I can look at one of these, I get a quick overview of what the geographic data looks like. And this map is completely interactive, and it has pop-ups and everything. I get a quick viewing of what attribute fields are in the data, any related data that are connected to this particular data set. I can download it in different ways. I can download the entire data set or the filter data set, depending on what I filtered it down to view in here. I can just get a sampling of that. And I can get it as just tabular data or KML for Google Earth, or a shapefile that I can go back and use in ArcMap or ArcGIS Pro. I can also just interact with it at the web level entirely. Then I can get a sampling of what the attribute table looks like here. I can look at the API Explorer and see how I will be interacting with it if I use it in a web application. So it's a great tool that's available in terms of data sharing and making my data accessible to as many people as possible that could possibly benefit from it. So now I'd like let's take a look at Hub Basic, which is our application for using open data, for sharing open data. So Hub Basic comes built into ArcGIS Online, and it does not require any special licensing for it. As long as you have an ArcGIS Online organization with at least one creator user, then you have access to Hub Basic. So as we have our WebGIS system, we have our various databases, and we have our GIS users that are using desktop GIS. We have our enterprise portal. Enterprise portal and ArcGIS Online, just in case you're new to this, they're both WebGIS systems. The enterprise portal is built entirely and deployed within your firewall, whereas ArcGIS Online is entirely within Esri's geospatial cloud. So ArcGIS Hub is specific to ArcGIS Online, and what it comes with is open data, which we saw that example from Brampton, and then it also comes with sites. So in addition to having the open data, we can build a powerful website, completely configurable, no coding is required, and we can build all that within the Hub system. And Esri, it's a #1 open data portal in the world. Last I heard, I think 22,000 sites are deployed using ArcGIS Hub. That number may have gone up since then. So let's look at a few different examples of things that we might be able to build with ArcGIS Hub Basic. So this, Johns Creek, Georgia built this one, and they built this one with Hub Premium, but most of the components in here we could do with Hub Basic. So it serves as a good example at this point. We have a search box where we can search various topics, download data of different types. They have these dashboards all categorized. Like if I look at this fire department dashboard, we get quick information about the data that they have on fires, their fire incident response, the clusters of incidents. We can quickly see the data as they are now. And these are live, they're pulling from the actual data sets, as well as a dashboard of fire incident response. And they have that for a variety of different topics. They have these videos that walk people through how to interact with the open data. They have the data gallery where we can, just like what we saw with Brampton, this is the open data piece. And then there's also a citizen engagement spot where they're trying to collect data from throughout the community that people can collect with their smartphones and submit into their system. So this is a great example of something that you could build out using ArcGIS Hub Basic. It's taking the data that they have, sharing it openly, but also positioning it in a way with very targeted applications and dashboards. Another example, this is just a sample built out by some folks in our Washington, D.C. regional office, and it's about the opioid condition in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And you can see how that they have little bookmarks listed here for the topics that will be covered, so we can just go to them directly. And in each section, this one doesn't even have an open data section, but it uses that same concept of positioning the data in a way that it's digestible to their audience. So we can, folks can report drug activity using a survey 123 survey here. There's a video, data presented as a chart. There's a link that will go to a web app builder application so people can find drug deposit boxes, additional maps, current figures that are pulling from the data sets of that naloxone distribution, data about treatment, and then recommendations for analysis in the long term. So where I want to go now is as we work within ArcGIS Hub Basic, when we build out our own site, the way we want to consider it, we need to kind of step back and consider why we're sharing. There is the tendency in the GIS world that we have a lot of data, we make really compelling, beautiful, informative maps, and we want the world to see them all. But we do need to take a step back a little bit and consider what our goals are and share what's completely relevant and what is going to help our community. So we want to ask ourselves some questions like, why am I building the hub site? And who is my audience? And what do I want to share and why? What are my actual goals? And then do some storyboarding. The more you do in advance before actually building the site, the simpler it will be to actually build the site. So I'm going to walk through the process of building a site from scratch. So I started ArcGIS Online. I'm logged in as a creator in ArcGIS Online, and within when I come to my content, I have a folder here specific to my hub site, and it's data that is going to be relevant for what I'm going to do. I have quite a few feature layers. I have one web map. I have a few web mapping applications. So things that I want to consider here, first of all, I want to have my collection of data that's going to be relevant. And anything that I have in here, I'll look at my care providers feature layer. I want to make sure that my title is something that will make sense to people. I want my description to be sound. I want to have a good thumbnail here. I also want to make sure my tags are really good. I have a health resources tag here that I will be using later on. And we use the tags to make our data findable later on. So it is really important, and you'll see a little bit more on that later on. Something else we want to consider is marking our data as authoritative. If it's authoritative, then people see that it has our stamp of approval as an organization. I don't mark mine as, since mine is just an example. But in my example, I'm wanting to build a hub site around diabetes within Los Angeles. So my goals are, I want to create transparency with the community about the condition of diabetes in the city. I want to connect people with resources. And I also want to provide tools for organizations who also work towards combating diabetes. So my audience, my primary audience is the community at large, but secondarily, my secondary audience is external organizations with diabetes interests. So all of my data is related to diabetes right now. So I can access ArcGIS Hub by coming to my application browser and just opening Hub. I already have it launched here. And when I get here, my two main components are my sites and my content. And the content itself, it'll look a lot like what we saw with our Brampton example. But we can see we have over 4,000 results. So everything in my ArcGIS Online organization that is shared appropriately is listed here, and therefore could potentially be brought into my hub site. I don't need that much. I just need the things that are relevant to me that we saw in that folder. And then here's where I can create a new site. So I'll go ahead and create a new site, and I'll name it Diabetes in Los Angeles. And notice this browse templates option is grayed out. I need Hub Premium for that, so I'll show that later on. We'll go ahead and create our new blank site. And notice it said creating group and creating site. So it's creating a couple of things for us. It's gonna give us a sample website that we can start working with and writing over, essentially. It's also creating some groups for us. So I want to, first of all, by looking in here, I have a content library. I want to take a quick look at my content library. We're going to see that it is empty. Nothing has been shared with this particular site yet. I also have a groups manager. So notice that there's a group here called Diabetes in Los Angeles, which is the name of my site, content. So when I come back to my content, or to my ArcGIS Online, I'm going to look at the groups that have been created for me. Let's see, Diabetes in Los Angeles Content and Diabetes in Los Angeles Core Team. These two groups were created automatically. So I'm going to open up my Core Team. Content is for anything that I want to share with my site, and Core Team is where I can manage who has control over my site. So I want to invite users. I can add someone else from my organization. I'm going to add my colleague Jonathan, and I don't need to require his confirmation. I add him to the group. And then secondly, I'm going to go back to my content and share all of this. I'll need to refresh it so I can have the group listed. I'll share everything with my Diabetes in Los Angeles content group. So now I should have a slightly different experience. When I come to my content library, I have my 15 items there that I just shared with the group. And then when I come to my groups manager, I could add additional groups if I like, if I already have data organized in a certain way, and I don't. I just have it in that folder. So I just want to share everything with that group and call it good. So we'll go ahead and work within here now. So one other thing I want to share is I have a survey that I will be using, diabetes community input. This survey it's to ask people about their experience with diabetes. Do they have anyone in their household with diabetes? Do they know anyone with diabetes? Questions about what kind of events would they be likely to subscribe to or attend. So if I go to collaborate, I can share this survey. I have it shared with everyone, but I also need it to be shared with my Diabetes in Los Angeles content group. And that will save me a step later on. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So a quick lay of the land in how this is set up. These are my controls for setting up my website. Everything is configurable. I don't need to write any code. As I scroll down, I have quite a few examples that I can kind of use to follow along. If I look at my settings, I can see how this URL is constructed. So my preview is right here, Diabetes in Los Angeles. It just kind of took the name of my initiative. So it's just listed right there. Then I also have a subdomain, thehub.arcgis.com, and that explains that part. So if I hit my dropdown, I could switch to open data if I want. I'll leave it as hub. I can also use a custom domain, and I completely rewrite how the URL is constructed if I want to, but I'll just go ahead and keep with the default. I can also change my flav icon. That's the little globe icon. If I want to put something more specific to my organization, I can swap that out. But my main control for building this website is this layout control. So this is where I have all the different elements. So it's all built on rows. This very top part is a row. If I click on the row little gear, I have my settings for my row. This next section down is a new row. This row is purple, this row is white. And then in each row, I can add in these other little pieces. In this section, we have a row that has a banner. And in this one, we have a row that has text. Text is the only one that doesn't have a control on the left. It is all managed within here. I have all of my settings, my size, my bold, italics, hyperlinks, bullets, paragraph, how I want it positioned. I could add a table here. This one, the text does allow for HTML. If I want to include HTML code, I can. And there's one good example of this is here. In this sample page, this is a text box built with HTML. So I can come in here and look at how this code was written if I want to make something comparable. So it does give me some good samples that way that I can build if I'm not really a developer and I want to kind of pretend that I am. So I'll go ahead and turn that off. And then this row also has a banner. So I can, if I want to create something new, I can just drop in a new row. And then within that row, I can drop in new elements. So I could drop in a banner, and I could drop in a category for data. I could drop in a map. And everything as I drop it in, I can either split the screen with something that's already there, or just go underneath it or go above it. I did want to mention also that this site page, it is responsive. So if I open it in a computer or on a smartphone or a tablet, it will adapt to the size of the screen that is there. So that's a nice perk that we have. And then if I want to delete something, I can delete each item, or I can just delete the entire row and just clear it all out at once. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start building. So I'll start with my header, and I want to change my image. I like that this row has an image. I want something different. And one good repository for images is unsplash.com. Unsplash, it provides a lot of really high quality photos that people contribute that we can generally use in a commercial setting. And there's one particular one that I like. It was called, let's see, Vegetables Sri Lanka. And here's the image that I want. So I have the image, I have information about who provided it. I can just copy the image address to use it. And it's also good to recognize from here, it says crediting is not required, but it's nice if we can. So I can copy that, and I have copied that. I'll use it later on in the presentation at the bottom to give credit to my photographer there. But for now, I just copied the image URL, and I can come back to Hub, and I just need to clear out this one and paste it in, and that puts the image in where I need it. And I'll keep my title the same, Diabetes in Los Angeles. If I did want to change it, I could just change it right here, but it takes the site name as the default. I do want to change my subtitle, Understanding, Managing, and Reducing Type 2 Diabetes. So that's it for my top section. Now I want this to be kind of an explanatory location where I'm giving people context of the purpose of what I'm trying to do here. So just some explanatory text. So I have some text I have a text bank on my other monitor that I'll be copying and pasting from. So I'll go ahead and just drop that in here. And I like the size, I like the color, and I like the font and everything. So I'll just keep everything as is. But I do want to adjust the coloring. I'm not a huge design person. I'm just not very super skilled in that area. But one thing that I do like to do is to pick a color scheme based on. I want some rationale behind my color scheme. So what I'll do is I'll use this image to kind of guide my color scheme. So a way I can do that is I open up the image in just in Paint on my computer, and I get this little color picker droplet, and let's say I want some purple. There's several shades of purple in here, so I won't really go wrong anywhere, but I'll pick one. As soon as I select one, I have this color one showing up in purple. And if I go to edit colors, I can see these RGB values here. And RGB is really great in ArcMap and ArcGIS Pro, but not as much in Hub. So what I need is hex values. So I'll open up just an RGB to hex converter that I just Googled, and I can drop in those numbers, 70, 55, and 136, convert to hex, and it gives me a hex value for this shade of purple. Now I have already gone through and saved a bunch. So I have 4 colors that I got from that picture. Notice my purple is slightly different than this one, just because I picked a different part of the cabbage. So these are the 4 colors that I will be using throughout my application. So I'll just put this over here for future reference. So what I'm going to do now is just adjust my row, and I just take that hex value and drop it in there, and it'll put it the shade of purple that I want to be using. And that's all I need for this section. What I'll do now, I'll hit save. And if I just copy this entire URL, I can open up another tab. If I paste it in and keep this part of the URL but remove the edit, I can go back and forth to what I'm building and what people are actually going to be seeing. So this is what my audience will be seeing when I'm finished. So this is just a good way to check that what I'm building is okay, and I'm okay with it for now. The next thing I want to do is this find data section, and I'm going to have this be towards the bottom of my site, but I'll do it now just because, well, it's right here, and because this is one of the more this is the open data piece. So this is kind of it's one of the nuts and bolts to my site, but I want to make sure I do it right. So I'll just do it now while I'm thinking about it. So first of all, these are two separate rows, my find data and my explore your data. I'm going to consolidate them into one. So I'll drag this down and put it right above this title. And now I have an empty row here that I can delete. So everything's in one row. And I'm going to change this row's color to black. So I have a hex value already identified for that. Now I'll look at each of these pieces. This piece right here is a banner, and the banner has a search in it. I could just do that. There's also a search tool that I could just drop in, but I'll keep the banner, it's already there. And the thing is, this banner is already working the way it needs to. If I come to my sample over here, if I just type in hospital, it should give me a result. Oh, I guess I didn't have anything named hospital in there. I thought I did, but it does take me right to my my data there. So I don't need to configure anything there. It's already ready to go. But I do need to configure this section because I have very specific terms that I will be using. So I'll start with this one. I might use these same icons, but I can adjust the colors. These are just category elements. So I can grab a new one right here, or I'll just use the ones that are existing and just modify them. This first one, I will change it to health resources for its name. And then I want the tag query to be the same. When I mentioned earlier that the tags are important on my content, however my item is tagged will make it searchable this way. So when someone clicks on health resources, on the back end, a query will be done for all items in my content library with a health resources tag. I can put a comma and put something else too, but I won't. I'll just keep it as one tag. And I like this image for my health resources. I do want to change the color though, make it the color of my cabbage. And then the second one is boundaries, and I'm going to leave this one exactly the same because I do have a boundaries tag in some of my data sets, and I like the image too. I just want to change the color so it matches the squash that I have in my image. And then for business, I'm going to change this to demographics, and that is the name of my tag as well. And I'll change my icon. So I have a good selection of icons here. I'll pick this one with the people, and I'll change my color to the color of my green peppers. And then the last one for community safety, I'll change this to health statistics. And then I'll paste that in here. I have a trailing space at the end, so I'll just delete that just to make sure it's not there, just in case that's a problem. I'll change my color to the red pepper, and I'll change my icon to this heart. So these four are working the way I want them to. I can just go ahead and delete these bottom four. And then that should be just where I want it to be. Then I can save, and I can come and just double check that things are working. And it's a good idea at this point to go and test these out, make sure they're working as I want them to. I've done that previously, so I'll skip that for now. Okay, now I'm going to build everything in between. And the way these rows are set up, it's convenient to add things wherever I want to, just by dropping in rows wherever I need them to be. So for this section, I want to provide some information about type 2 diabetes, since that is our focus in this site, and I want to explain why we're focusing on type 2. So I have some text set up. First of all, I want to change the color of my row to fit my theme, put in that yellow color, and then I'll put in, I have some text that I want to copy, and I'll add in a text element within this row, and I just go ahead and paste that in. And I had a little title that I want to add as well. And I want my title to be centered, and I want it to be using header 1. And then I want the rest of my text to just be on header 5. And that looks good for me for now. I'm differentiating type 2 from the other types of diabetes and providing information about why I'm using it, or why we're focusing on it. And then I want to add an image as well. I'll put the image off to the side, and I already grabbed a URL from Unsplash. I just queried diabetes, and this is one that came up, and that this fits well with what I'm talking about. So I will go ahead and drop that in there. The next part is I want to show some data about diabetes, and this is where I'm going to pull from a lot of my content that I have in here. I have one layer in particular that I can make some informative visuals with. So I'll go ahead and add in another row, and I'll make its color green. And I can start adding things in. First, I want some text. And my text will explain the information products that I'm going to put down below. So notice that it's hard to read. One way we can adjust the color is by adjusting it for the entire row. Any text color I put in for the row will be adopted by any elements that I add to this row. And so I want this black, and I'll make this bigger, and I'll center it. And the rest of it I will make bigger as well. Header 5 will work. And then I'll just add a space here and a space here just to tidy it up a little bit. And there's my explanation. The first part that I'm explaining is I want to compare a diabetes count with other related conditions. And a good way to show just a count is with the summary statistic element. So I'll drop that summary statistic in right here. And to populate this, I go to find an item. And I'm going to search for a layer that has the word citywide. Citywide statistics, various health stats. This is the one that I want. This has a lot of different attributes in it. And I have one attribute called diabetes. Right now it's giving me a count of how many features I have in my data. So it's just a count of all the census tracts that I have in my data. So what I want is an average of all of my data. What percentage of the people have diabetes? It's 11%. And then I can put in a little title for my element there, and then some trailing text explaining what it is. It's 11% of LA residents have been diagnosed with diabetes, and the source is already built in. It points to the data set, so it'll just take folks to that item within ArcGIS Online. It's shared publicly, people will be able to access it. And I'll go ahead and add another statistic. I'm trying to, I want to compare diabetes with other conditions that might be related. So I'll pull up the exact same one. And this time I'm going to choose obesity. And we'll do the same thing. We'll do an average and give it a title, prevalence of obesity, and then some trailing text as well. And then I want to add one more. And this one, again from the same layer, I want to use, BP high blood pressure. And again, this needs to be an average as well. Put in a title, put in my trailing text. There we go. And then I want to resize it just a little bit. I can hit this a couple times and hit this once, and that should kind of even it out a little bit. So I explained in here what this is telling us. We see that these two numbers are very similar, and this one's quite a bit smaller, but it does kind of confirm a suspicion that we might have that blood pressure and obesity might be early warning signs of diabetes. So these numbers kind of help back that up just a little bit. Another item I might add in is a graph. So if I get a chart element and drop it in, and I have a couple different flavors of graph or chart I can add. I'll do a scatter chart, and I'll use the exact same data set that I have. And I want to compare diabetes to sleep. So is there a relationship between how little people sleep and how much they have diabetes? And we see a positive trend. So there might be somewhat of a relationship there. So I'll give it a title. And then I will put in X label, people with diabetes, and then the population that gets less than 7 hours of sleep over here. And this nice graph is created. So just like with Operations Dashboard or with Web App Builder or something like that, I have these little tools in here that show my data. So as the data are changed on the back end, as these numbers are modified, it will update automatically within my site. So these numbers are dynamic. And so that's really helpful. And lastly, I'll put in a map because that's what we're all about here at Esri. And this map will be, it's one called Diabetes Prevalence in Los Angeles. And I've already created the symbology the way I want, and I have the extent and the pop-ups and everything the way that I want them to be. So I'll put in a title that gets dropped in right here. I could turn that title off if I like as well. And I can adjust my height. I want it to be 700 as opposed to 500. The width I don't really have control of because as I drop in other elements, I can, cut the width in half and adjust it from there. But the height is what I can manually specify. And I'll turn my legend on as well. So that's what I want for this section on relationships between diabetes and other factors to provide context of diabetes conditions in our area. Next, I want to provide my community with some local resources. So I'll put a purple background here, and I'll put in a text element. And I wanted to say local resources as a title. Again, it's hard to read here. I'll first make it big and then make it centered. So in addition to changing it at the row level, I could just change it using HTML. So I have an HTML string that I've already pre-configured. And when I turn that off, it says it in white now, like I want, so it stands out a little bit better. What I want to use next is a gallery. So I could just put in my application directly. There's an application tool. I have a handful of applications that I want to show that are all resource locators. I can also use iframe, or I drop in a URL using an iframe, but I'll just use gallery. It makes it so people can see an application and then open it externally. So by default, it gave me the 3 applications I wanted. It also gave me a survey that I don't want here. The way this works, it reads it dynamically. I could go to manual and just add things in automatically. But by dynamic, I can take a whole group of applications. So it's going to search for apps, and the default is 4. So I could switch this out for data sets if I want. It's going to grab 4 data sets from the groups that they're shared to. So it's just kind of scouring these 2 groups. I've shared everything within Los Angeles content. So that's where it's pulling from. I want 3 applications that are shared there. I don't want this one. I want something else. So I can further filter by tag. Let's see, I put in a tag called resource locator. And so these 3 were tagged accordingly so that they easily come up right here. And then lastly, I want to choose the option to open in a new tab. So when someone clicks on it, they click explore, it will create a new tab with that application instead of replacing the current one. And that encourages people to not leave this website. So that's enough for local resources. The next part I want to connect people to some resources at the American Diabetes Association. So I found a great video, this Count Me In campaign that they put together. They have their Twitter feed as well as just their website directly. So I want to connect people to that as opposed to reinventing the wheel entirely. Let's make use of good resources that are out there from great organizations. So I'll drop in a new row. I'll make this one yellow. And I have a video option here. Here we go. So for video, I can drop in a URL for a video from Vimeo or Facebook or YouTube. I just drop it in and it says it right there. I can give it a title, show the video title, but I also want to show the owner so people know where it's coming from. And that's good for that. But I also want to put in some text. I'll put in a hyperlink to their website. So for my text, I'll just visit the American Diabetes Association website. and I want to add a hyperlink for this that I'll just put in diabetes.org. There we go. And then lastly, I want to put in a social media feed. So I'll grab their Twitter URL and drop it in right there. And I do want to show the footer because it allows people to link to it to open it directly in Twitter. So that'll be a good section for reaching out to their resources. The next piece I want to add in is a survey. So I'll put in a row for this. And instead of a color, I want an image in the background. I have a URL for an image already. And this particular image, notice it's shifted to the left, but I have this cyclist and then it's just empty space over on the right. So I want to use that. So if I drop this in, it'll split the screen between putting this on the left and just empty space to the right. And where we don't drag around our different elements here, as we drop them in, they split the screen with what's already there. I'll show you how I might work with that. I'll grab a text element and drop it in. And my text element is taking up the entire screen, of course, from right to left. I only want it over the white space. So I'll grab a second text element and put it to the left. And I'll just turn this one off. I'm not using it. I'll just leave it completely empty. And that will allow the cyclist to be visible. And over here, I'll put in the text that I want people to read about the survey. So I already have the survey made. I'll make this a header 3 and keep the text a little bit small. I'll just come and center it. And then now I can drop in my survey. And the survey works like other applications. So I'll do it with the gallery. But again, I don't want all 4 of these. I only want one of them. And the survey shows up automatically. If it wasn't automatic, I would just go to manual and pick the survey. I don't want the word explore. Let's see. Under style, I can change explore to give feedback or give input or whatever it is I want it to say. I can make my button say that. And this is good for my survey section. I'll turn that off. So down here at the bottom, let's see, this is what I want to be the next thing, my find data. And the rest of these samples I do not need, so I'll just clean these right up. I should be saving periodically, so I'll do that now. Clean up the last one. I like this contact information. I want to put my own name there. So I'll go ahead and just drop that in. And then I'll change that here too. So if I have that mail to in front, then it will open it up in the user's email. And that is good for there. And then lastly, my credits down at the bottom. I'll remove these 2 that were already there. I'll keep this, but I'll modify it just a little bit. This is where I'll give credit to my photographers. And I'll just say all photos are from Unsplash and then give reference to their names. Okay, so everything there should be good. There's one last thing I want to do, and that is my header. I want to keep the standard, but I want to go wide, so it'll spread things out just a little bit. For my branding, it's diabetes in Los Angeles, but when people open it on a mobile phone, that's too long. So I can change it to just diabetes in LA, and people can read it that way. And then I'll add some social icons. So no, I should put in my organization's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram handles in here. I don't have anything right now to put in, so I'll leave them blank since I'm just demonstrating, but that will add those there. So now when someone comes to the application, when I refresh, it will work. They get what I want them to see. They have all of that data there. It's taking a second to load. These locators that I put in there, they open in a second tab like I want them to. And what these resource locators do, they're built in Web App Builder, and it's using this Near Me widget where I can type in an address or just drop in a point on the map, and it gives me a radius. In this case, it's 5 miles. I can set what I want it to be. But I see farmers markets and grocery stores, so I can see the nearest farmers market here in green, and I have information about that. And the same for grocery stores. And then I have this video, the Twitter feed, the survey will launch the same way. I didn't set that one up to launch in a second tab. I should do that. And then I have my open data and contact information and the closing. So, so that's what I wanted to show you for Hub Basic. Now we'll take a look at Hub Premium. So Hub Premium, you get all the benefits of Hub Basic. So we spend a lot of time there just building a site. That tends to be the time-consuming piece of what the technology requires. So we have that, the site and the contents and apps. Those are what you get with Hub Basic. Hub Premium comes with everything else. So we plan it all around initiatives. So that's a language differential there. Instead of saying site, we say initiative, because it's much bigger than just a website. It's a whole initiative where we're combating something, we're collaborating on something. We're not just making a site. Making a site is part of it, though. We are able to build teams. So as we coordinate with other people, especially folks outside of our organization, we build teams with them. For a diabetes initiative, I might be working with a hospital, with a clinic, with a dietitian. There's a number of groups that I could be collaborating with on diabetes. They're not all part of my organization, but they can be part of my team. Everyone gets a community identity, people in and outside of your organization. People can subscribe to follow content that they like, to follow initiatives that they're interested in. People can provide feedback in the forms of surveys and discussions. We saw how we can use a survey already. We can use a survey a step further with Hub Premium. And then we can launch events and people can RSVP for them. And with all this data coming in from different directions now, from different members of our team and our community, we have really enhanced performance tracking. So the site page that we build, organizations tend to already have informational sites. Organizations have missions and goals and benchmarks, and those are often made available within websites. And then organizations tend to also have GIS departments where we have a lot of GIS information. So using this initiative model, we're able to really make a middle ground between the two and really marry the GIS content that we have with our administrative and professional goals. So back to our roadmap of our maturity within this open data concept and using ArcGIS Hub. The next things that we'll do is to organize data and apps around initiatives. So instead of just having a diabetes website, we're going to have a diabetes initiative where we're going to collaborate with other folks and really fight against it. We form teams. We organize our teams around the initiatives that we have. So where this fits in within the ArcGIS technology stack, it's still part of ArcGIS Online. It is a premium license on top of ArcGIS Online. So while the basic license, what I've already shown, is already available to you if you have ArcGIS Online, when you acquire that premium license, it opens up some more doors for you. You can add in these extra components that I've already kind of talked about. So what this looks like on the back end, once you get that premium license, this is how it'll be set up. Let's see, you already have your ArcGIS Online organization, and this is for members of your staff. People in your business have usernames, and they can create content or work with applications, create applications, run analysis. When you enable it to be a hub organization, you get a second organization entirely. It's completely separate, and they're connected, but it's a separate organization. And this is where you put in your community members. So there's two types of licensing options. Governments are able to consider the populations of their jurisdiction and purchase a license for the appropriate sizing, and then they get unlimited usernames. So however many people create an account, can have a username there. But any organization, including governments, they can, you're able to decide what's the size of your community, and your community meaning the people that you're actually engaging with. So maybe it's not everyone in the whole city or state, maybe it's specific people and specific organizations that you want to include. You get to decide what that is, and then you can pay for the license depending on what that size is. Maybe you need 100 people, maybe you need 4,000. And then also there are additional pricing benefits to folks that have an enterprise agreement. So in action, as we have internal employees working around initiatives. Maybe we have a homelessness initiative and a chronic disease initiative. We have a team for each. They working together when developing content and figuring out their approach. We can take in community members to be part of that team. So they're not part of our organization. They're not too close to our data, too close for comfort, but they are part of our initiative team and can work collaboratively in Hub. So what this does, it allows us to really step it up. We're a crowdsourcing society, and citizens are eager to be engaged, and they want their voices heard. So this is a great resource for governments and other organizations to really connect with the communities as a whole and to make decisions and solve problems. So it will really ramp up that citizen engagement, collaboration, as well as the consistency of it. And that helps us to get to this that I showed in the beginning. We have an organization that's actively engaged with a number of other organizations as well as residents in our community. So let me go into Hub Premium. Same thing, I have it in my data picker. It looks the same, Hub, but when I come here, it's a little bit different. I have the word initiatives instead of site, because site is a website and initiative has a lot more potential behind it. I have some more metrics down here, my community dashboard telling me how much people are engaged. My content's the same, it works very similarly. But the community piece, this is where in my community organization, my completely separate ArcGIS Online organization, I see how many people have created logins. This is a test one, so not many people have, and 2 of them are me. These aren't me as a user, this is me as a community member. I created this one with my Gmail account and this one with my Facebook account. And so we'll consider that later. We'll see how that works. So also I have a page for setting up events, and I have that set up over here. So I've created a sample event that can be used. So I can build an event that I can host into my site page. So I've already built out this site page to duplicate what we just built out just now. I have some additional options that I want to add in. So I put in an empty row here. I'd probably put more thought into where I put them, but for demonstrative purposes, I'll go ahead and just drop them in here. What I have is, one of them is events. So I can just drop in, let's see, upcoming events. It'll add into this calendar with information about what's coming up. You can see this Sunday is my sample event. I can also drop in a featured event. I might not do both of them, I might, we'll see. But if I choose that jogging one, I see my image, or I could show it as a map instead of where it is, and then put in my description where someone can come and attend. Something else I have is the follow initiative, and it's just one little button, and I don't need to configure too much to it. I could change the terminology, but if someone follows it, it'll change to unfollow, so they can choose if they're opting in or opting out, and I'll show you what that does in just a minute. So I'll go ahead and save that, and I'll open this as a member of the community. I'll refresh the page here. So I have a sign in button here, and when I sign in, it gives me this prompt. And then down at the bottom, I get the same prompt if I click follow or attend or something. So if I hit follow, what I have here is an option to create a new account. Or if I have an account, I can already use it, or if I already have one for Google or Facebook, I can. I already have an account that I made through my Google account. So anyone can do this, and this site is public. So if anyone wants to go there, feel free to type in that URL. You're welcome to come tinker with it. So here I'm following the initiative, and I'm gonna attend this event. So back on my administrative side, where this comes into play is I can come over here to my community. I can also come to my event. So I open my community, and I see that Matt Thomas, my Google account, Matt Thomas, is joined, is part of a community following this initiative. So I'm part of the diabetes community as a citizen. So what I can do is I can check the box, I can hit message, and I can send a nice welcome email to my folks that are following the initiative, letting them know that they'll get periodic messages from me or from our organization. I can also see who signed up for the event listed here. I'm not logged in as an administrator of the community org, so yeah, we'll just skip that for now. But the other thing I can do is look at my teams. My team right now is just me, but I can go ahead and add in folks from my community. So I can add in that Matt Thomas 29 Gmail user, send the message. I'll skip that for now. But I can make anyone part of my team that they can help me be part of this collaborative group in fighting this initiative, or in working through this initiative and fighting diabetes. So real quick, we have about 5 minutes left. I want to go over and show just a few highlights of what folks have done. So the city of Columbus has this Celebrate One initiative where they're fighting for babies to be in optimal health for the first year of their life, give them a really great start. So they have several pages around this. This page has a follow button where I can come and create an account and follow it. I can search for data. I have a series of applications here, and then some open data available. So this is all about maternal and childhood health and birth outcomes, and it's a great initiative that they have going on. Esri has put together a hub page for different regional offices. If you come here, I have a board of all of the different regional offices that have hub sites. So Esri Philadelphia's, I have events for the area. And this is great. Just as a member of the user community, if you come to this page, you can see what events are going on in your area around GIS. There's a map of them. You can register for them just right here as a hub viewer. And we can follow that office just like we follow an initiative. The city of Los Angeles, this is their Vision Zero. So they were an early pioneer with this hub concept with their GeoHub. They're really helpful in helping understand their needs. It helps us a lot when we're able to pick the brains of our users to be able to provide the resources that are useful. But they put this together around Vision Zero. One thing that we have is this tackle. This is an out-of-the-box initiative template. And I did forget to show that, but I can show you real fast. In our hub page, when I go to new, I can browse the templates. These templates are all available: homelessness, vector-borne disease, Vision Zero, tackle the opioid epidemic, and we can build out a site like that. And again, you can modify it, customize it, pick and choose what you like. It gives you a great starting point. So I'll go ahead and just show you that I have a resources slide for you with hyperlinks that when you download the document, you will have access to all of those. Some great resources. This one especially, it is a bunch of hub examples that people have out there. Here's my contact. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. We have about 2 minutes left. So Megan, are there any questions that came in?
Thanks, Matt. We have time maybe for 1 or 2 questions. Here's one we received. Does Hub exist for enterprise, or is it only for ArcGIS Online?
Oh, good question. So Hub is specific to ArcGIS Online. What we have that's comparable in ArcGIS Enterprise is called Enterprise Sites. And those are new as of 10.6.1, I believe. And it's developed by our Hub team. And it's basically the same site building experience. However, it's not meant to be a collaborative. It's not meant to be collaborative external to your organization. It's meant for your organization only. For example, if I'm part of a hospital and I want to create a website for hospital administrators and I want them to have specific data available to them, I can put that into a hub site instead of giving them my entire ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise website. I can just give them a sites page with what I want them to have access to. So it is a similar experience.
Okay, great. And it looks like we're just at the hour, so we're going to have to wrap up. Thank you again for joining us today.